The time is now 6 o'clock PM and I'd like to start the meeting of the Audit Committee. My name is Councillor Massey and I am the Chair. I'd like to remind everyone present that this is being filmed and recorded and will be uploaded onto the Council's website. Item 1, apologies for absence. Democratic Services, have we received any apologies?
Yes, we've had apologies from Councillor Arnold.
Thank you. Item 2, the minutes of the previous meeting. This was held on the 21st of July 2025 and I move that the minutes of the Audit Committee be approved as a correct record. Does anyone comment on the minutes? Councillor Punjala?
Yeah, one of my question is missed in this one. I raised regarding this one, what I have raised concerns about the outstanding statement of accounts still open from the long time. So I requested when can we expect the date and time frame. That part is missing. Thank you.
Can that be amended on the minutes?
I can add, yeah, we don't minute absolutely everything, but if you want something particularly changed, I'm happy to add that in.
Any other comments on the accuracy of the minutes? No, I move that those are approved as a correct record. Does everyone agree?
Agreed.
Yeah. Contrary? Right, thank you. Item 3, urgent items of business. I have not agreed to any items of urgent business this evening. Item 4, declarations of interest. Does anyone wish to declare a declaration of interest? That's a no, thank you very much. Moving on to item 5, first substantial part of the agenda this evening. It's the annual governance statement 2024-2025. Please can I ask Helen Nichol to present this item, please?
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, members. So the Council is required by law to review its arrangements for its internal controls and governance at least once a year. And the way that Thurrock Council does this is by way of its annual governance statement. The annual governance statement is intended to accompany the draft statements of account, which are due to go out for their public consultation imminently. And so this draft annual governance statement will accompany those accounts when they're published. Once the public consultation period has ended, then the process will enter into a period of finalisation, and then obviously the external auditors, Ernst & Young, will commence their external audit process. In terms of what the annual governance statement is intended to do, it's really where the Council considers and provides reasonable assurances to all of its stakeholders that processes and systems are in place, ensuring that decisions are properly made and scrutinised. And also a key element of that is looking at the value for money element and whether public money is being well spent and effectively used to benefit everyone who is served by the Council. In terms of the structure of Thurrock's annual governance statement, this follows the SIPFA best guidance model and following governance assessment against the 7 core principles identified by SIPFA of good governance. And these are set out at A to G on page 9 of the AGS, which you can find at page 25 of your pack of papers. The AGS is also intended to reflect the Council's performance against the Code of Corporate Governance, and you will recall, members, that this was introduced and approved by Council in October last year. So essentially the Local Code of Corporate Governance is the document that sets out how we say we will do things, and the AGS is assessing ourselves against that, and also the SIPFA good guidance principles, as I've stated. In terms of the assessment that's given this year, I think it's reflected in the opening comments, and certainly it follows the line of the Commissioner's latest report to Government about the progress made by the Council, which is that there is clearly, over the period that this statement covers, which is 2024-25, there has been clear improvements in relation to governance and controls across the Council, but it is acknowledged that there is still significant work to do for the Council, and particularly in relation to that value for money assessment. That's a high-level review of where we are. Obviously, there's more detail against each of those governance principles within the document, but I'm very happy to take questions from members.
Thank you very much, Helen, for your report. Thank you. I know how much work's gone into this. It's a lot to pull together from all different parts of the authority. So I'm really pleased that it's here tonight at the Audit Committee. I've got one question straight off the bat before I open it up wide to members. Just for the record, Councillor George Coxwell's just entered the room. The section, I think it's around, I can't find the actual page now, but it's about data protection being paused in terms of, it's typical, I can't find the page number, I think it's 29. Oh, I can't find it now. I'll find it now. I'll come back to it in a second. Yeah, it's a lot to pull together. It's really interesting. Obviously, there's a lot in there to do with standards still, from the time where it's interesting that comes to here. It's good to see that complaints have gone down by 50% effectively across the authority. My question at the moment is about the different sort of Thurrock Regeneration Homes Limited, and we obviously become the owners now, PWE Holdings, through one of the we've effectively the main shareholder now. It seems that we're 94% of the owner of it. What's sort of the plan for that going forward? That's on page 20 or page 4 of the AGS.
I wonder if I could hand over to Dawn Calvert for the answer on this one. Thanks.
Thank you, Chair. So in terms of PWE, that is one of our council investments. As you say, we are the majority shareholder in that. We are looking with our advisors as to what our next steps are, and that is whether we retain that interest or whether we do actually divest that interest. So we are currently working through that. It's one of our last 6 or 7 what we call our tail end investments now, and that process is happening at the moment.
And while we're 94% majority owner of P, are we responsible for making sure, like, the company's house is up to date, like the set accounts are filed every year, that kind of thing?
We do have certain responsibilities around making sure that it runs as a company should do, and that's what our advisors make sure that happens for us.
Thank you, Dawn. Open up to questions from members of the committee. Yeah, Councillor Panjala.
Thank you, Chair, for the opportunity. Thank you for the report. I have a question, page number 13, regarding the risks. We have got under risk point number 1, inaccurate disclosures in relation to the control, environment, governance, risk and progress in action plans. So residual risk status was showing that green, both of the part 1 and 2. So I want to know that it's completed. It's mentioned as a green, so it's completed, or so I have a query about that one.
Could we ask what page you're referring to?
Page number 13 under risk, and there is a table has given in that one. Inaccurate disclosures in relation to control, environment, governance, risk and progressions in action plans, mitigations, input from the senior staff across the organization to confirm controls, governance, process and action plan in place, and the same as non-compliance.
Sure, I can answer that one, thank you. So we wouldn't say it's complete because it's not complete until we've finalised the annual governance statement, and the external auditors will also do their review of it against the SIP for guidance and any other findings that they have during their audit. However, from the review of what's been included in it, we will classify it as a green risk in terms of the impact of the risk of finding these issues would not be significant.
Just I want to know about the non-compliance means I didn't get. Can you please explain me in briefly what is the non-compliance with guidance resulting the annual governance statement not being fit for purpose?
Sure. So in relation to non-compliance, what we're referring to is whether it doesn't follow the SIPFA's code of practice. So the annual governance statement must follow the sit for go to practice for all councils, and in this case it's a risk we're raising in case it doesn't follow it following the work that we've completed. However, management have checked that it is following it, hence why it's rated as green at the moment.
So are these for the current year one or the backdated one? Which
The current year, for this specific annual governance statement.
2024 and 25?
Yes.
Okay. And also, I have one more query. You want to say something? Okay.
I just wanted to come in on that point. So I think members will recall from last year we undertook a process of regularisation in terms of getting the annual governance statements up to date, because there have been a number of years where we hadn't had annual governance statements as a council. So that process was done last year in the audit committee. This is now the annual governance, or the draft annual governance statement for 2024-2025, so the last financial year, which accompanies the accounts for that year. So it is getting us back into that cycle of being where we need to be in terms of the preparation of the annual governance statement.
Thank you for your explanation. I have one more query. Like normally in financially, annually, every year, like even small scale company or sole trader or any big companies, they file the cases every year, annual statement. Normally they prepare the annual statement. So for Thurrock district, like annual statement, annual account statement, and also annual, what you call this one, governance statement also, both are important for every organization, like especially public organization. Annual governance statement as well as the financial account statement. So like how many years from the 2016 to 2022 still that one pending, or is there any progress or anybody working on that one?
Can I ask do you mean the statement of accounts, councillor?
Annual statement of accounts as well as the annual governance statements are up to date?
Okay.
Whether it is up to date or not, just have a query.
I can update you on the progress of where we are with the statement of accounts if you would like. Is that what you're asking? Yeah. So in terms of AGS, and Helen can come in if I get this incorrect, but the AGSs we have done every year. So for the last 2 years we've done very full AGSs. So obviously we've got the AGS here for 24-25, and we had a full AGS in the in the sit for format for 23-24. For the 2 prior AGSs, so they're done. For the 2 prior AGSs prior to that year, we decided that because of the challenges the council had faced, there was no point in asking people to sign a governance statement because of what we knew. So we just did a consolidated 2-year statement. So in terms of the AGSs, they are all up to date. They have been published as they should be, and this statement, as Helen's already explained, will be published with our statement of accounts. In terms of the statement of accounts, I think the position hasn't changed from what we reported at the last audit committee. So we've got our 24-25 accounts here tonight. Very few, virtually no major amendments from last time. And in terms of our prior year accounts, they still remain open, so they haven't formally been signed off by our external auditors, and that's all because of the objection to the accounts. Now we are actually, as I've explained before, we've had to seek legal advice in terms of that objection, which we have now got, and so whereas we've previously been saying we're waiting for that advice that has come back to the council now. We are looking at that in preparation to get that over to our auditors. So those accounts and so the 23, 24, 24, 25 accounts are under the review of EY, but obviously they will not be able to sign them off until all the previous years are signed off with BDO, because obviously they can't sign them off until BDO is signed off. In terms of timescales, we are saying that if the objection can be cleared relatively quickly, then BDO reckon it will be until the end of the year before they then complete all their process, because they have to go back to the objector have the period of time in order to look at what they say, what the auditors explain to the objector has to go to the PSA to be reviewed. So there's a very detailed timeline in terms of what has to happen. So if that all runs smoothly, BDO anticipate that they will be able to get their accounts signed off. We know they're all going to be and it's cut is it modified opinion or disclaimed opinion. So we know that. So if that runs smoothly, we'll be able to get that process with BDO finished by the end of the calendar year. If it doesn't all run to plan in terms of very smoothly, it's likely that that process will extend until March. So that's where we are with the BDO. It doesn't stop EY looking at this year's accounts and doing their work, which they're going to start in autumn, where they will be doing all their, what I would say is their normal standard audit work. But it just means that, once again, because prior year statements cannot be signed off, we'll still be in that position where we'll get a disclaimed opinion.
May I know who need to, as you said, like legal need to sign off that one. So normally, correct me if I'm wrong, like a financial statement of accounts and like annual governance, we supposed to seek a legal advice on that one, or only the CFO who need to sign that one?
So in terms of the accounts, so I as Chief Finance Officer have to sign the accounts that they are, as far as I can, they are a true and fair view of the finances of the authority. The challenge where we've got the legal advice is just because we've got the objections. So what is stopping us from getting all our accounts signed off and BDO concluding their process is the objection. That's where we have to engage external legal advice. So then we talk about legal advice, that's the legal advice in terms of the objection. In terms of the statement of accounts, I sign them off. And in terms of the AGS, it's signed off by the Chief Executive and the leader of the Council.
Thank you, Officer, for the clarification. Thank you, Chair.
Just before I come to Councillor Raper, I found the page number for my first question. It's page 45, the report's back to page 29 of the AGS, the government statement. Data protection reviews, and essentially we've not progressed it due to capacity, and that's how comfortable we're in authority that we're not doing those reviews. What's the risk?
I'm happy to answer this one. So my understanding is the reason that it hasn't progressed yet, absolutely, is due to capacity. In relation to what was doing to manage the lack of capacity, they are doing data protection impact assessment. So there is a covering control, I guess you could call it. How comfortable are we about managing the risk? Almost an open-ended question. The reality is that the key would be to move to those audits of doing data protection audits from that specific team. So nothing to do with the audit team unless they wanted us to do something specific. And it is something they're looking to implement shortly.
And operationally, does that mean a new post, new employment, or is that going to be upskilling an existing member of the team?
My understanding is the previous manager left quite quickly, which resulted in somebody new coming up, taking up the post and coming up to speed. So I don't think there'll be a new post. It's just fundamentally doing the things that are high priority first to ensure that the service is running as it should be, and then moving to do the audits on top.
Thank you. Councillor Raper.
Thank you. On page 19 of the annual general statement and page 35 of the agenda, fourth paragraph down, it says the directorate risk registers are being produced across all departments with the aim to upload these to the JCAD risk system in June 2025. Do we know if that's happened?
Yes, it has.
Thank you. Nice quick answer.
Any other comments, questions? Oh, Helen Nicol.
Sorry, just reading that paragraph, Councillor. I think there's incorrectly PMAF has been included at the start of that, so I'll make sure that's taken out. And actually, while reviewing the document as well in advance of this meeting tonight, I've noticed the contents page and the numbering is out. So we'll go through prior to the consultation publication. We'll just go through with a final check to make sure those little typos are ironed out.
Thank you.
Thank you. For you, Helen, a question in here. I really like the way this has been laid out and designed. I think it's important we give feedback, and I think it's really, considering the amount of information, it's very readable. I like the RAG system in terms of red, amber, green, and things like that. My question is around the SIPBER Financial Management Code, and it says this is a plan for 24-25, a new permanent appointment, and it's not yet started. It's one of the few things that hasn't got a colour coding, it's just not even off the ground yet. Just drilling down to that, what's the plan and what's the timescales on getting that going?
Which page of the...
Page 25 of the AGS, I think it's page 41 of the reports back, and it's...
Okay. So,
But turn your mic on.
oh, sorry. Oh, actually, sorry.
So the SIPFA Financial Management Code, what we do, so we follow the SIPFA Financial Management Code, so just to give you that assurance, but what we have to do is we have to do a self-assessment against it. And so there's a number of criteria, and we self-assess ourselves, and we say, do we meet the criteria fully, do we partly meet it, or do we not meet it at all? So we red, amber, green it. We have started that process. So we've got our initial assessment of where we think we are. We are just refining that process, and I'll go to the Finance and Recovery Board. So the next Finance Recovery Board is, I think it's on the 26th of August. So we'll probably just be able to give that board an update and still complete that, but that is underway.
Yeah, I think it's really important, isn't it? I mean, I think it'd be good if the committee could have an update on that in October, the next meeting. That'd be really good. Councillor Raber.
Thank you. On
The
page...
microphone.
Oh, sorry. On page 22 of the thing, and 38 of the agenda, the second paragraph down, it talks about, it's been recognised recently that there has been some slippage in the quality and timelines of reporting. I won't read the whole thing, but it's going to be addressed over the summer. Is that going to come back to us? Yes, second paragraph down on page 22.
So there is a report going to senior leadership team, I believe on the 20th of August, that's addressing the reporting process. I'm not sure that item specifically would come back to Audit Committee, but one of the questions within or recommendations within the report is to seek feedback from the committee as to what updates you would like about progress of items that are contained within the annual governance statement. So potentially that could be pulled through to the action plan for that arises from 24-25, because there's a report writing action that is the second to last entry on that table, appearing at page 28. So potentially we could add through to that table the issue around timeliness and quality of reporting, and then we can then provide an update against it firstly when we come back to the annual governance statement next year. That will then assess how we've performed against those actions within the table, but also if the committee were looking for some interim or mid-year, for example, review of performance against the annual governance statement, then we could incorporate it within that. But I'm happy to take feedback from members as to how that would best operate.
I personally would quite like to see that, but obviously depends on the decision of the committee.
I think, although it's called the annual one, I think we'll probably discuss it and come up with a recommendation, but I think we probably need to see it more than once a year and then touch point. Councillor Coxall.
Thank you, Chair. No, I think it's quite helpful seeing, because one thing I will say, there has been a marked change in report writing, I would say, since from looking at reports 5 years ago to reports even different. When you look at a report from 2022, it's very different to the style of report a cabinet member or a committee will receive now. So there's been a very good marked improvement. I think there's just I think it's interesting maybe for full members of the committee to actually have a proper look into that in terms of the standards of what we're getting in terms of members who don't, staff who are not as yet gone to their training sessions, to make sure, because it is frustrating when you see a report that's so far out of kilter with everything else that is a standard set. I think it's really important for the authority to make sure we are actually having reports. I regret to use the term, but I'll use the term of which was provided by the lead commissioner in 2022 when he first arrived, was it has to pass the mother-in-law test, is what he described it as. Was if I can give it to someone who is a complete layperson, he described it as his mother-in-law, she should be able to read the report and understand it. And I think it's making sure it's got the right information in it, but at a level that is actually understandable and digestible. And I think that's really where we want to tried for. So if the committee want to look at that, I think performance indicators to see that of whether if that comes forward as part of that in part of the annual government statement or a further bit of work for the committee. I think that's very, very, very good thing to say.
I completely agree, Councillor Raper.
I've got yet another question. On page 28, the very final sentence on the thing says, individuals who have not yet attended or failed to attend the training, new starters, are being targeted. Can you expand on what being targeted means? Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, targeted may be, it's possibly an interesting choice of language in the report, but certainly a list has been compiled of all of the attendees to the report writing training last year, including officers who perhaps signed up to the training but that were then unable to attend on the day. And obviously there's been, as the report indicates, new starters who have been appointed into roles where the report writing is a key function of that role since. So in terms of targeting, it's discussing with exec directors and ADs for the relevant service areas, making sure that they're aware where staff members within their teams have not attended the training or it's still outstanding, and really just making sure that we are targeting the training of those officers who need to attend it. That's what's meant by that statement.
Thank you, because I know in the past we've had, actually it wasn't in this committee, but we've had cases where people have been identified, but no one's followed up to see has anything happened. So I'm glad to hear that that's what's happened.
Thank you, Councillor. One of the few things that's read and delayed is the local plan. And I know there's no one here tonight from planning to give much more information on this. We were talking about adoption due in 2028, and we've got obviously my own ward, East Tilbury, is a really good example. Pretty much everything that's on the draft local plan has now got planning permission or planning permission being put in, so it's kind of redundant in almost for the actual homes being built. Someone might have to answer in writing, but is that definitely going to be, or is it going to slip further? Because it has been slipping for quite a while now.
I don't think anybody can really answer that. We'll happily take back the question for you, but I really wouldn't want to answer that question. But I will pass it back to the Executive Director and Ashley, the Chief Planning Officer.
Thank you, Dawn. I was just concerned that we've opened ourselves up as a borough to lots of speculative things being built. And I know it's not a planning meeting, so I'm not going to go, but I just want some clarity around that we're actually going to make sure we hit that 2028, because I think the longer it goes on. Yes, Helen.
If I can just come in on that as well, I believe, I don't have the page open in front of me, but I think it links through to the report that went to Cabinet on that issue last autumn. And that report then sets out the timetable and also the reporting that will come back to Cabinet as well. So I think it's a challenge in something like the annual governance statement regarding, as you say, rightly, that does of course raise concerns for members and for residents. We're not able to repeat all of the information that's there, which is why we've tried to, where possible across the statement, to link in the relevant information to reports to other committees and Cabinet.
Yeah, that's great if you could take that away, and that'd be absolutely fantastic. The only other one that's yellow is in progress, which is the work in the Oracle support partners to develop reporting which identifies duplicate invoicing. How much of a problem is the duplicate invoicing? What's it caused operationally? Page 25 of the AGS, or yeah.
So thank you. So from my point of view, I don't think internal audit have identified any significant concerns. However, if we could take that question back and respond with a formal answer.
Thank you very much. Comments or questions, Mr. Weber?
Linked to what you've just said, my question on the same point is this problem with the duplicates and so on due to the management structure? Is there an issue around perhaps support for middle managers and so on and so forth? I don't know if that's come out through what's been looked at.
No, I don't believe so. I believe it's more of a system point than a management structure.
Thank you.
So yeah, if we maybe just do a little bit about what we'd like to see when this comes back. So I'm going to suggest that anything that's changed, whether it's good or bad, that'd be useful to know. I would like to personally see some more sometimes the timescales in the RAG system. So when the next milestone is, or the estimated completion of a particular part of it. But other than that, I think it's a really good report. I think it's really important that we've got this running through the authority, I think if we'd had this in years gone by, things could be very different, because it does touch base on so many different parts. I mean, whether it's financial, systems, or training, or the local plan, it really pulls everything together. So yeah, I'm really pleased we've got this, and we can have it coming back to committee maybe about halfway point through the year. Is that a suggestion? What does officers think about that timescale?
So I understand there's a meeting in
One in January, one in February.
one in January, one in February. So perhaps for the January meeting might be. Oh, sorry. So December or February. So sorry, actually probably February then. And that might be a useful revisit, because we'll need to start preparing the 25-26 AGS at the time, obviously at the close of the next financial year. In terms of information that you want to see, obviously I've taken a note of those points that you've just made, Chair. I think it's unlikely we'll bring back as full a document as this, but is it really sort of the highlights perhaps against those action tables and where we're at and the timescales, for example, rather than the full document? And obviously a full version of the 25-26 one will then be brought to this committee around the same time next year, prior to going out for consultation with the accounts.
Yeah, precisely that. Just the changes. It might only be a few pages long of things that are between now and sort of draw a line in the sand, then look at it in that meeting in early 2026, which, like you say, will give you the authority a really good run in getting those next year's one up and running earlier. Because I know we have to have tight timescales this year, and it'd be nice to have a bit more relaxed next year going forward. Absolutely. Any other comments? Yeah, one of our co-opted members. Jess.
Just a question on the disclosure checklist. Is that a summary view?
Apologies, what page are you looking at?
Page 21.
And is that 21 of the pack or of the...
Or the pack that was on the desk?
There's two numbers on.
Which one?
Yeah, that's the audit.
Okay,
Yeah, that's the same accounts.
cover that after. I'll save my question to then.
It is challenging sometimes. We've got two different numbers going on and different jumps around on the page. And yeah, any other comments or questions on this item?
Just thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for getting this done. I appreciate members coming for this extraordinary meeting as well, but we want to keep to timelines and get this turned around as quickly as possible and out there for public consultation, so it enables us to do that. There is some recommendations that I'll read verbatim. So this is obviously item 5, the annual governance statement of 24-25. Recommendations are 2.1, approve the contents of the draft annual governance statement 2024/25. And members all in agreement? 2.1, yeah. Is the contrary? No, thank you. Recommendation 2.2, provide any comment regarding how the committee would like to review and have oversight of actions identified in the annual governance statement, AGS. I think we've covered that off and made a note of that, when we'd like it back, and we come back early in 2026 and what we'd like reviewed and how we'd like that formatted, so we've done that. We're all in agreement?
Agreed.
Is the contrary? No? Thank you. I think that's all the recommendations for the AGS. Thank you very much for all the hard work on it. Really pleased that we've got it. And yeah, look forward to getting better and better each year as we build upon it and learn from the previous year. So thank you very much. For this item, I'm going to hand over to my Deputy or Vice Chair, Councillor Panjala, to introduce this item.
Thank you, Chair. I'm working as a Vice Chair from past 2 years, so just this item number 6 I'm taking as an internal audit assurance report. So can I ask Satinder Jas to present this item, please?
Thank you. So I will note that this item was deferred from the last meeting, so I will take it as read if that's okay, and point out any changes. So hopefully, and happy to take any questions after that, of course. So just before I do take it as read, I just want to flag a couple of areas. So on the cover report, on section 1.5, there's a report in relation to NATIS, the NATIS service. And in 1.8, we flagged that as there's currently an external audit assurance piece going on in relation to this service and the sensitivity of that work, the report, the full internal assurance report, won't be provided until that's finished, but we will bring it to the audit committee once that's been complete.
Can I just ask, have we got any sort of timescale for that?
If I can come back to you on that, because currently I'm not sure what the timescale is.
It's quite imminent.
I believe so. Yeah, I believe it is imminent, but I can't confirm the exact timescale, so I will do. That's fine. The second part of the report is in relation to FI governance, which there's been a few amendments to the cover report that I wanted to flag. The first of which is 1.13, so that's page 49 of the document. To note that the report, this report is only a review of processes, procedures and controls which were in place and should be noted as such. It's not a review of any potential fraud areas that have or have not occurred, and I just want to make that very specific. And secondly, 1.14, from the meeting last month, we noted that there were 2 minor amendments which did not affect the material findings of the report, and subsequently the report has been amended for both of those, and I've detailed in those the page and the changes to the wordings. If I could just move on to the report now, please. And just to point out, there is an internal audit update for July, which was but we discussed that previously, so I wasn't planning on going through that in detail, but happy to once again take questions. So if we can move through the report, page 59 of the report, this to flag. So the council entered into a process agreement with a company called Topland Olympus, who are referred to Topland in this report. They hold the leaseholds and is the landlord for properties, and another company, FI Capital Investments, who are referred to as FI, and who was the acting agent as part of the work done. There's a complicated structure, which we have not gone into detail with, where it's all owned by a parent company called Topland Olympus. But that's just to give you a very high-level background. I wasn't planning on any other background because it's been detailed quite significantly in the audit summary. But to point out, the audit found 11 high recommendations in relation to the setup, the processes and the controls. Assurance of no assurance has been given for this report, and I appreciate that this was something that was set up in 2020 onwards, around that time. So this is a looking forward report of things that can be improved going forward for other organisations that the council works with. I'm going to pause there because I appreciate there might be quite a number of questions and take them as I go along. And just before I do, just wanted to flag, unfortunately, management were not able to attend today because of the change in this report was moved from the previous month to this month, and they are on leave. But I can take any questions back from management which we cannot answer today, and happy for them to give a response to.
Thank you, Satinder Das, for the feedback and the assurance. Do members have any comments or questions, please? Councillor Messi.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Councillor Panjola. I'm really shocked by this. I find it worrying that we're not going back like decades here. We're talking just a few years ago, and to not have these things in place, and for the laxes of governance and just how to operate correctly and processes and procedures. It's really a worry, and like I say, we're not talking historical. Some people probably still be in similar roles now. Like, just going for number one, process agreement not fully signed. I mean, are we 100% sure there has not been anything signed?
So from the evidence that were provided to the auditors, to myself and my audit team, we had agreements that were signed, but there was no agreement that was signed by, there was no one agreement that was signed by all parties. And that's fundamentally the issue that we identified.
And we've come across it before with Oracle. We talked about it when paying expenses, and there was a problem with Oracle where people could sign for their own expenses in theory. Things like this, when we've got these systems, and surely they should be doing all the heavy lifting, and you can't, hit submit unless you've attached the things, the agreement and things like that. I'd like to think we had got these systems, but obviously we clearly haven't. So I know we've got areas of improvement and things like that, but I think we really need to sort of just be 100% sure, because how do I know if this comes back to the committee in a year's time, and how are we as members going to get assurance that these things are going to be fixed, working correctly as they would in any big business? Because effectively we're doing business here as an authority and just not doing it right.
From an internal audit point of view, my problem would be two ways. So the first would be, I understand that the procurement team have been working hard to ensure, in essence, agreements like this are signed and the due process is followed, good controls are followed, best practices followed. We have not reviewed that area because that's a completely separate area, but I understand that that is something that they've been implementing in the last year or so. From the other side of it is I would check whether, the question is how much resources do you put on this and how historic do you want to go over? Are there agreements in place for your larger contracts, and have they been appropriately signed? Can they be appropriately identified, and is there an audit trail for them? But once again, that's an open-ended question, and there's a question of how much resources do you have and can you put into this while you are focusing on ensuring that the material items are being fixed as soon as and quick as possible by management.
Is there any other members have a question?
Thank you. Just on, again, Councillor Massey's taken much of the aghast out of, I think all of us are seeing here, because it's how are we getting ourselves into this position again at the same time? Like it's the basics of, I was shocked that a senior officer can assign bank transfer payments. Like, how are we in this position where that is acceptable? And but it's the point of there is a level of members trust officers, and there is a level of, this is why you end up with poor member officer relationships at times, because members suddenly see these things happening, and just because it was no time to go through requisition process, it's like really poor governance being done. And property purchase approval, I think that's one thing that concerns me really, is that we're buying properties without an ED2 being signed. Like, how can we not have a cabinet member sign off or a senior officer sign off on this? We know there's been an issue of even ED2s being published for post intervention, where there's we were always from 22 to 24 asking about ED2s and when do they get published so the public can see them. I think that's a really scary point for members, and the assurance that how do you know other departments aren't going away in the same position? If it's just the HRA and the housing that's looked on its own, and it's been left alone because it's a separate budget. But this is shocking to think that not only have we had an issue with our own investment strategies and everything else, but suddenly our housing, which has always seemed to be what was said to be gold standard, is built on sand. Like, it's a car crash waiting to happen, and we're watching it happen live. I don't know. I think that's the concern I really have, is we've got no assurance And I think it's really important we get to the point of addressing some of this very quickly, and councillors can see that marked improvement.
Yeah. Please carry on with the question.
Thank you, Vice Chair. For me personally, I just can't take it in because I happen to be a portfolio holder when this all started. I had no idea someone called Topland was involved. This was only ever shown to me as PHI, only ever, never anything else at all. I would like to question the ED2s not being signed by a councillor. You said you checked 10, I believe. Are they more recent? Because I can tell you, I signed every single one of them with an email because I didn't like the scheme that much, to be perfectly honest, anyway, in the first place. But your report does say that if there was significant financial implications, you would report it. So are you saying there aren't any significant financial implications in this? Because on the flip side of the coin, which is really why it was always done, was the fact that we had £7 million worth of right to buy receipts, which I think would have cost us quite a few £1 million if we had to give them back. So I know that's the reason why it was done, but I just can't believe that it wasn't checked. I mean, the fact that the report now says that there was a problem with insolvency, they were concerned about insolvency from the start, I can assure you that was never put towards me as portfolio holder. I want that on record because it certainly wasn't. But so are you saying there's not a big financial implication to the fact that they've gone into administration? Because your report says you would only report it if there was a significant impact. And if you could confirm, I know you don't have to do it now, but what the cost would have been for the £7 million right to buy receipts, because I think that was...
Sure, so if I could take each question separately. In relation to the ED2 forms, I would have to come back to you on the dates of what we checked. That's not a problem. Happy to do that. Could I just ask quickly the financial, because I appreciate sometimes in the reports it's got in different areas, where have you picked up, just so I know what I'm referring to in relation to the financial implications point?
Potential and direct financial implications associated with them, which, if significant, have been raised as part of the recommendations.
Page number.
Why do you need a page number? That's your report. Page 51.
Oh, sorry, I understand. In relation to the financial implications in the cover report. So, in relation to FI, so there's two things here. So, the financial implications that are referred to in the cover report, that's in relation to the report itself. It's not in relation to anything FI have or have not done, or have not done with the council, because the report, once again, it's only a review of the review. It's only a review of processes and controls with what the council should have done when undertaking their work or partnership with FI and Topland Olympus. In relation to your other point about the way it was set up and the £7 million specifically, my understanding is, and this is not something we've looked at in detail, but it is something that we looked at as an overall, my understanding is the council's the significant amount of money that was transferred or paid from the council to a company was with Topland, not with FI. FI were the company that did the repairs and the maintenance and made the properties fit for purpose. I couldn't go into any more detail than that because that's not what the part of the report was. The report was a focus on the council went into a partnership with a company knowing what's been noted in the report. These were all the steps they probably should have done and they haven't done, and hence the recommendations that were noted.
Thank you.
Does that mean Topland Olympus are still working fine?
Sorry, are you saying that Topland are still working with the council or with...
they're still solvent and working.
I couldn't answer that. We didn't look into them as part of our audit work.
So, one more. Councillor Karen.
Thank you. I've got several questions, but I can probably sort of collapse them. And also a couple have been answered. So, for example, I was going to say there was mention of the portfolio holder. How involved were they? But we've had an answer there from who the portfolio was. Well, reading this, obviously it looks as though there were failings on that part. And I mean, I know it was a previous administration and so on. But thank you, because you've answered some of the questions I would have had. The other one is some of the things that have happened. You know, have we got any idea why these things hadn't happened? Because it's all quite depressing reading this. There were certain sections in it that absolutely demonstrate the need for interim audit reports to come through in a timely fashion, but that's been picked up this evening, so that's fine. I won't read that, but my statement was ridiculous and incompetent, but I won't follow into that. What I was going to ask is, looking at this, has it triggered us to look into other contracts, other areas, other departments that similar things may have happened with? Thank you.
From an internal audit point of view and an independent point of view, it does make me think we should be looking to other areas. From a audit point of view for your audit capacity this year, I would suggest that first management go away, digest which they have been doing already from my understanding, digest the recommendations and look into as much as they can themselves first before we go and look at it from an audit point of view, because I don't think there'll be any benefit me looking at another area straight away, especially with the number of other risks that have been identified across the organisation.
Thank you. I mean, my concern is just that we might be starting to spot a pattern of things that are happening elsewhere, which will lead to further problems for us. But thank you for your answer.
Is there any other members? First, Christine Clay.
Thank you, Councillor. 2 questions. Probably, if I start off with the fact that a lot of the responsible holders, there seems to be a large spread of responsible holders to the different recommendations. What's different now, or what's been done so that this doesn't come back?
I couldn't answer that for you because, I mean, this report has only, I guess, well, it's been delivered to management, but it's only. What's different in terms of, are you saying in terms of the risks that were, or the issues that were identified don't come back?
Well, it's quite, should I say, shocking, the fact that we've got probably 7 or 8 report owners from different skills level which are affected in one particular report, and such a large array of problems tells you that probably could be an issue beyond one person. So what is there that going to be done, or what would be done differently to address the large scale of issues that have been highlighted?
My understanding is, so the issues that were highlighted, a number of the staff members have left already. There are new members in the post, and additionally the HRA service are doing a full review of the way they are working. But I can take this back to management if you'd like a more thorough answer of what's being done to ensure these don't continue happening.
I think Councillor Massey will bear me witness that some of these problems have been here before, and we're going over the same issues over and over again. It's not a manpower issue, because different people have come and gone. We're still coming back to the same issues. What is there going to be done differently, or what would be done differently? Because twice now some of these things have happened under different people, under different post holders.
I mean, from an internal audit point of view, we will follow up on every recommendation in relation to the dates that have been set. So if they're not done, we will report them to members here and to the senior leadership team. From manager's point of view, I obviously could not answer that, but I'm happy to take that back for them to provide a more formal response if that's helpful.
Helen Nicole want to explain. Please carry on.
Thank you, Chair. I just thought it might be helpful. So I am the owner of a few of these actions within the table. So just to provide assurance that the actions are reported to those owners. So, for example, in relation to item 1, for example, which is the fact that there wasn't a process agreement fully signed by all the parties that could be identified. We're currently at the moment that I have a new head of legal services who's doing a sealing and signing review process, for example. This kind of thing will be picked up within that. In relation to the comment that was made earlier about ED2s, we have a section on the website now where all ED2s of decisions are published so that they are then accessible to the public. So I think there's obviously, as was reported earlier in relation to the annual governance statement item, there's been an awful lot of work that's going on around, improvements in things like governance. And that can be seen as well through the improvement and recovery plan and the regular reporting that takes place in relation to that. So just in terms of, I thought it might be helpful if I provided feedback as an owner to say that yes, action is being taken in relation to the recommendations that do come through from this, and there is then a process whereby those are reported back to internal audit. So there is that tie-off then of actions being taken that have then been completed. Absolutely appreciate this, it does not make good reading in the slightest, but there is obviously work going on to make sure that those actions are addressed.
All right, thank you. Probably what I'm looking for is assurance that not just actions being taken, but internal controls are put in place so we do not get back to this point. Because we could have an easy bypass to a few of these things happening again because the controls are lax or there are no controls at all. What controls are going to be put in place for each of these points so at any point expenditure limits are not exceeded by accident or any other way, for example?
So my understanding, so as part of my function, when I go back and look at if these actions, all of the recommendations have been addressed, one of the key questions I will ask is what have you put in place to stop it happening again, or what controls have you got in place? And we will ask them to demonstrate that those controls are in place. So we will need to see active evidence of that. And once we've got those, we will document them as part of our system, and then we will come back to management and if specific, members and the senior leadership team. And if they ask us to note what we've done, we're happy to provide a follow-up over what we've seen and what we've concluded from that, the controls that have been put in place.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Final question. Quite a few of the recommendations are with June 25 completion date and some September. Given the fact that we're in August 25, what is in the form of assurance to say that these have been achieved or completed?
So we will now, because there's been a delay in providing this report to members, we haven't actively, the decision was made not to actively go to management and start looking at what has been put in place. However, now that this has come to members and we've taken on board any questions, any queries, we will now go to management for the ones which are due or overdue to request what's been done, and if they haven't been completed for whatever reason, we will come back and report those.
Any other members? Councillor Karen, please.
Thank you. This is just it's not specifically to do with this, but it relates to a question I asked on the previous section. Are we seeing that there are issues with the line management and monitoring structures and systems that are in place that makes it hard for people to, really keep an eye on what is happening and making sure some of these are really ridiculous things to have got wrong. I mean, that's not a personal attack on anyone, but so I'm just wondering, is there more to it than simply saying this mustn't happen in future? Do we need to say, well, why is it happening? Why did it happen? And is there a better way of keeping an eye on it? Thank you.
From my short time here, and unfortunately because it's only been a short time here, and the audit reports and the audit work I've completed and my team have completed, there is some systematic issues in relation to the number of staff changes. And unfortunately, I think that's a common issue if it was any organisation. There's a lot of restructure that's gone on. There's been a significant amount of change. There are control weaknesses in the system as a whole. It's not fundamentally on one area. It's not on housing. It seems to be there are control weaknesses. I think that's evident from the position Thurrock found themselves in. However, the flip side of that is there are improvements, and we are seeing active improvements as part of our work. So when we are challenging management over what have you done in certain areas, they are being able to demonstrate that they've changed or they've added more controls in place, be it email authorizations or system authorizations. Unfortunately, there's a historic number of issues which, as you can imagine, when somebody's come in to look at an area for the first time, will identify quite quickly. And those still need to be flagged because they still have a knock-on effect, because a lot of these contracts are longer-term contracts, and a lot of the processes that happened are not just processes over 1 to 3 months, they could be over a year.
Thank you.
Is there any other co-opted member? Jasdeep, please.
Thank you. Can you remind me why this item was deferred? It's a shame a lot of the relevant people haven't managed to attend today due to holidays, and thank you for answering a lot of the questions. It'd be good to know why they didn't mention it at the end of last meeting that they wouldn't be able to attend when the dates were being discussed.
Sure. So my understanding, and I'm happy for Councillor Panjala to add anything. My understanding is it was deferred because there was a little bit of an uncertainty over the accuracy of the report, and there were a few questions that came in quite late on in the day, and we wanted to have a look at them just to make sure. But as confirmed previous at the beginning of the report, the report was materially accurate, and it was of 2 minor amendments.
Thank you, Jess. Is there any other members who want to discuss? Councillor Messi, please.
Thank you. It says on the report about there's been breaches of both council policy and public sector governance standards. Is there anyone that's still in employment at Thurrock Council that is now should be looked at in terms of breaching these code standards?
In relation to our findings as part of the report, as it wasn't a fraud investigation or it's not looking into that area, I couldn't say. What I can say is I understand that management are looking at how this all occurred and are looking at the further possibilities of any other areas. But as you can appreciate, this is not something that we could discuss in this meeting.
No, I fully understand that. I mean, I just think the general public would just be outraged, if I'm honest, because their engagements with council obviously got lots of red tape, and then you see, I know there's a quote here about that basically it would take too long to do it properly, essentially. I mean, it's just so shocking. I'm just, really, it's good that Audit is targeted on this, because otherwise we wouldn't know, but we can't keep as an authority sleepwalking into problems. We've, really got to learn, and this is just, I think we've just got to make sure 100% as members of that these things have all been put in place when they said they're going to be put in place. I just emphasise that. It's not a question there, it's a statement.
Is there any other members who want to ask any questions anymore? So I would like to go for the recommendations. 2.1. For the reasons set out in this report, the committee is recommended to review the findings and recommendations of each report with particular focus on management responses, including timelines, and ensure appropriate actions are in place for the corresponding recommendations. Is the recommendations agreed? Agreed. Thank you. I would like to add one more point here. If the management find like a breach has happened, then in that case, what action can be taken? Can we able to cancel the contract and take the action? Any other things in place?
Is that a breach in relation to management's partnership with Topland, or, well, not Fire anymore because it's been dissolved, but with Topland? I couldn't answer it from an audit point of view. That was something legal and management would have to look through if there was a remaining contract or if there is a continuing contract with Topland.
Thank you. messages with, so I'm going to recommend this one. Agreed. Thank you. I'm handovering to Councillor Chair Messi from item number 7 agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Panjala. So item 7 is draft statement of accounts, and I believe, is it Dawn? Yeah. Can you present this report, please?
Thank you, Chair. So we had our statement of accounts for 24-25 came to the last meeting of the Audit Committee and had a good discussion around them, asking lots of questions. We did say there were a few issues raised by the committee and quite minor amendments, thankfully. And we said that because we have to publish, the ideal scenario is we publish our statement of accounts along with our AGS, because there was a slight delay to the AGS, that we would just go through and amend those amendments and bring them back to this committee before they get published as part of the statutory consultation along with the AGS. So that's why you've got these statements back today. So the report in section 4.4 states the amendments that have been made to the sets of accounts. So they are minor amendments to the statements. There's nothing material. Just for full transparency to the committee, there is one issue that we are still working through that won't have, at this point I'm saying will not have a material impact on the statements. It's related to a reserve balance for the Freeport, so for Thames Freeport. So we hold a reserve for the Freeport, and we have three reserves for Freeport. It's the one reserve is the value of our, we call it our counterfactual money, is the council's share from the Freeport. One of the reserves is a 10% contingency that we hold for the Freeport, and then we have a balance of carry forward from the prior years that goes back to Thames Freeport Limited Board. We are just the area that we are looking at is the council's counterfactual level of its Freeport reserve. It's included in the accounts at 2.3 million. We are just still doing some further checks on that reserve, just because we want to be absolutely sure. It's quite complicated. It's linked to all our collection fund, etc. So we just want to be clear. So I'm just being transparent with the committee today and saying that when we do publish these accounts, which we'll be doing at the end of the week, if that's agreed by the committee tonight, there is just that one area that we are looking at. We can publish the accounts and we can make amendments through that publication period. I'm not expecting any, but I'm just being transparent that we are looking at that Freeport reserve. But other than that, there are very minor amendments since last time, and we are hoping that we can get these accounts published when my chief accountant returns from leave on Friday, along with the AGS, and then we can start the statutory 6-week consultation period that will be concluded at the end of September, ready for EY, who are doing some audit work already, but are going to do the bulk of their audit work on the statement of accounts in the autumn.
Thank you very much, Dawn. Obviously, we're only last month and we've had basically the same paper. This is new, and it probably is an appendix on the website, and I just wanted to see if it's related to, because it's not got what it's related to. It looks like a list of evaluations.
Sorry, Chair. I'm not quite sure we need to put that in the accounts, but I will check. No, we shouldn't need it in, but I'll double check. But we shouldn't need that in.
Okay, I mean, it's obviously been done because it'll be an appendix on the website, so it's been printed out by Democrats to bring here, so it must have a place in here somewhere. But just going on the changes, obviously we've changed the reference to Coalhouse and things like that. The group accounts not being ready, I'm a bit concerned about that in terms of, I know there was a threshold where we wouldn't have to do like a full set of accounts for the group companies, and we didn't know last month what the actual trigger number was, or whether it was a percentage or an actual amount. I mean, is there any more progress on that?
Can I first of all just check? I've just seen what this separate appendix is, and it's part of last time we gave the checks that we did, the 10 reviews that we did on the statement of accounts as part of our due diligence. This was related to number 5, the asset valuations. So I think it's been provided for information where our test was our asset valuations are received annually, and we were doing a check of those valuations. So that won't go up on the website, but so apologies for the confusion around that. In terms of group accounts, I might have to come back with a firm answer on that. I think some of it is limited. We don't believe we do have to do group accounts because of the materiality level. Because you only do group accounts if you believe that the companies that you have, that they are material to your statements. So they are material to the... So if we had a company that, for example, we were part of a company whose value was maybe £50 million, that would be nearly a quarter of our revenue budget. That would be classed as material. So if something happened, if something happened in that company, or if for example, we had a company and we got an annual contribution from that company of £25 million, that would be deemed very significant to our revenue budget. So if there was a risk about that return, that could have an impact on the council because of the value of it. We don't believe that we've got anything because the one company we have, TRL, has been closed and the assets sold. So I think that's been the confusion around group accounts this year. So you are right to mention it, but we are working through that, and we won't see that happen again next year. But you are right to mention it because we should have maybe been a bit quicker on that.
No, I appreciate the answer there. I suppose the next question is, just a couple of items ago, we found out we're 94% owners of PWE. So does that come under the group companies as well? Because that's quite a lot of millions of pounds.
PWE is slightly different because it's an investment. So PWE is part of one of our investments that we are currently divesting. So it might be in here, but it's quite relatively small. So I'll double check for you, but I don't think it would come under group accounts because it's not deemed material.
Okay, thank you. Comments and questions from members of the committee? Yeah, Jazdeep.
Back to my one from earlier. That disclosure checklist, is that a summary view? Because it seems quite light on page 21.
Could I check, is that the Code of Practice Content Compliance checklist you're looking at?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's that one here.
So that is something that CITFA normally provide as well. So it is a summary view.
Yeah.
There's the actual checklist itself is probably about 150 pages.
Yeah, I thought that'd be the case, thanks.
Any other comments or questions from members on this? I mean, I'll go down the changes because I think there's only a few of them and it'd be interesting just to drill down into them. So related party notice updated, the old table's been removed. And 19 councillors do have complete. What was the number of councillors last month? Just catch my memory.
Sorry, Chair. The number of councillors last time was 19. At the time of this report being going out, it was 19, but I've sent a chaser out in my name. And I think I've had about notification about 4 or 5 back. So I have sent a notification out, so hopefully we will see a more of a return of those coming in. But we do need to get them in. So if I'll give it a week or so because people may be on holiday, but we will continue with them chasing under my name.
And just practicing lyric. What would happen if said member just ignored it?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't. I don't believe, and Tinder can help me if I've got this wrong. It doesn't affect the accounts in terms of in terms of us following our normal processes for the statement of accounts. But it is like the councillor mentioned, it is a standard issue. It's something that councillors have to do because we have to be assured that we haven't got any related parties that might be that we need to be aware of because of our council business.
Absolutely. Just to add to that, the key point that will be raised by your external auditors will be is your related parties complete?
Yeah.
And if there's a gap, that's a gap in the assurance. So that's why it's fundamentally important.
Thank you for clarifying that. Yeah, come on, members. Let's officers do their jobs and get formed in. Going on the next one, the typo. Now, I've done typos. Everyone's done typos, but that looks like a big typo, and the numbers are completely different. So I just want to see how much of it's a typo, or how much of it's just we've got the wrong numbers in the first place.
I will be honest, and probably your assertion there is probably correct, where we've had to correct the number.
Just on that then, because it's obviously gone from 84,404 to 7,761. Whereabouts where could I find that number in the report?
I might have to come back to you because because of leave, I haven't got officers with me tonight, so it might be that I come back to you, Chair, and we'll give you a proper written answer. 26.
This is note 20C, if that gives any guide.
Yeah, so it's financial instrument adjustment. The account. Time to spend in different arrangements for accounting. I'll have to come back to on it.
It'll just be no adjustment while we look back. Yeah. Hang on, sorry.
We think it'll just be an adjustment to the note, but I will come back to you and confirm that, and apologies for that.
Brilliant, thank you, Dawn. The other things are fonts, spellings, typos, that kind of thing. So essentially, I know we as a committee have gone over this already once, so I don't expect there to be loads more questions, but open it up to comments or questions or any. No?
I've just got a
Yeah,
question.
Councillor Raper.
Thank you. Can I just check that these amendments that you've discussed haven't actually been made on the document yet? No, that's all right. Thank you.
And just for anyone that's watching online or watching this back, could you just talk through maybe the process of where we go from here, now the AGS and its accounts are in front of us tonight?
So what we do now is our accounts and AGS are subject to a 6-week consultation period. So they will be put on the website either the back end of this week or the early part of next week, where people can come in or have a look at them and raise questions with us and ask us any questions. Once that statutory consultation period is completed, it closes. And if anything has come about through that period, if there's been any people have pointed out any errors or anything, we will make sure that all those adjustments are put through to the accounts, and then that's really our accounts then go over to our auditors. They still stay draft during that process, and then obviously our auditors do their audit work on our accounts, and we will then get a audit report back, which will tell us, which will come to the committee as well, which will tell us that yes, we've prepared the accounts in the correct way. Now you should get that back. Yeah, it might be December or January. If they only start it in the autumn, I mean they are saying that 24-25 have been are likely to be disclaimed because of the prior issue that we've talked about with the objection. But I think as we talked about this quite at length at the last audit committee, it's really important now, particularly for me as the Chief Finance Officer, that we have a proper audit run at these now by external audit, so that I will get what I would normally get back, and there'll be a set of observations that the external auditors have made, and we will be able to give management responses. That's really important now for my purposes, because I need to have assurance that we feel we have done these to as best as we can based on the information that we've got, and they're being prepared in accordance with our financial code. I really need external audit to check that now, and if they've got concerns, I'll get something back now, because we haven't had that for a long time.
And that's the whole name of the game, isn't it? In audit, that's exactly what we want. We want that independent critical friend to be going through it all. We talked about data protection earlier, so I just wondered if a resident does want to ask a question or make an objection to do they deal directly with the council, or does it go to EY, and is that explained to them their data will be shared?
So they would go to the council first. The council will provide them a response. If they're not happy with the response, they can go back to the council and ask for a further detailed response. As you can appreciate, some of the questions that are asked might require redacted information, so the council will have to consider that. And at that point, if they're not happy with it, they would then go to the external auditors and raise the question directly with them.
I'm guessing from previous, basically the EY would effectively deal with it and then charge us an hourly rate, and that's how. Potentially it could cost a lot of money.
If an objection is raised and it's not something that's relatively simple to conclude, then unfortunately there can sometimes be a very high price tag to that. Unfortunately, as we have found out with BDO in terms of the current objection that we've got.
Thank you. Did we ever? I don't think we actually touched on. Do we know what that's cost so far?
We don't know specifically what the cost of the objection work is, but we do know at the moment that our outstanding bill from BDO that we are that their fees up to concluding the objection is 500,000. Now we've paid 135 of that, so we are expecting an account for the balance. In terms of looking forward, in terms of audit fees, they are agreed with the PSAA, and I think our fees for this year are 300. Now you quoted me on numbers. It's around 300 and something thousand, but obviously the external auditors do then have the right to say they need to do extra work because of the status of the council. So I suspect we are making a provision for a figure that's significantly higher than that at the moment.
It's a lot of money for a disclaimed opinion.
It is a lot of money for a disclaimed opinion. And I know Satindra and I have talked about this, about we need to manage our external auditors very carefully in terms of what they're doing, and if we are not getting the full work, we need to make sure that we're only paying for what we're getting. But it is, I have to confess, it is a very difficult thing to manage. But it is the best thing we can get to now is we can get into a position where we can get into that normal external audit rhythm. And then, because not only is that good for residents, for yourselves to get assurance around our statement of accounts and our AGS, but there is a reality check. It will significantly bring down our audit fees, which means we can use that money for other things.
Thank you for that answer, Dawn. Not the news you want to hear, but that's the reality is how it is, isn't it? Any other comments or questions on this item, members? So we'll go to the recommendations for these. So for the reasons set out in the report, Audit Committee are recommended to 2.1 to approve final draft unaudited statement of accounts 2024/25, subject to any material changes being required by the auditors set out in Appendix 2. Is that agreed? Agreed. To the contrary? No. Recommendation 2.2 to authorise myself as the chair of the committee to sign the final unaudited statement of accounts 2024/25, subject to any material changes being required by the auditors. Is that agreed? To the contrary? And we've got one more, 2.3, bit of a long one, so bear with me. To note that the auditors, Ernst & Young, will commence the detailed field audit in the autumn and have already been indicated that they are likely to issue a disclaimer opinion based on the status of older year audits which remain outstanding at present. And that's a note, so I agree that we note that. To the contrary? No? Brilliant, thank you. That concludes the business. I'd like to say thank you very much everyone for having the extra meetings. I know it's been hard, but it really helps us as an authority to do the right things at the right times and actually move forward. Because I feel that audit now is in a much better, stronger place, and that works hand in glove with finance and everything else. It's really positive. So thank you for your times in August. Hopefully I won't have to do it again. And then at 19:24 concludes the business. I now declare the meeting closed.